different way. Gospel, jazz, R&B touches you every day. Talk about when it moves you differently day to day. It's the R&B Bistro. Let music have its way.
So bad. When I think about the madness, it just makes me sad. War and hate are everywhere. When a man screams, I can't breathe, he's choked to death.
This place they call the land of the free.
Why so many people die every day? Only one walk hand in hand. Since birds South Africa to my
Hello and welcome to the R&BBistro Up Close and Personal. I'm Venus, your host, and you know we started the show a little differently today because I've got over 3 decades of musical legends in the house. We just saw their video and it's called When We All Pull Together, and I'm gonna pull it together right now so I can tell you who's in the house. We got gospel greats, gospel house, we got R&B. Let me tell you, I'm gonna stop right now because I just gotta tell you, put my glasses on because you know I gotta be able to see. So listen, we got WBLS in the house, represented by music execs, producer, DJ, CEOs in their own right, Sir Charles Dixon. We got Doc Martin. We got gospel house artist Aaron K. Gray, and the legend that brought them all together, CEO of UBS Records, singer, composer, musical genius, Mr. CeCe Rogers. Gentlemen, welcome to the R&BBistro. I'm so glad you're here. I'm like, I don't know what to do with myself. All these men in the room. Eat your heart out, ladies. So listen, you know what the show's about. And I want to get up close and personal. Can we do that?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. First, I want to let our viewers know from your mouths who you are, each of you. So just tell them real quickly who you are and your one claim to fame. I know you got several, but I need one. It's a 30-minute show, okay? I want CeCe last. Go ahead.
I am Aaron K. Gray. I'm an international recording artist and entertainer.
All right. Doc.
Doc Martin, DJ producer for WBLS in New York.
Okay.
Charles Dixon, aka DJ Sir Charles, record exec and DJ for the past 30-something years.
CeCe Rogers, singer, but more so than anything, father, 2 stepsons, 3 kids altogether.
Okay. Claim to fame?
That's the claim to fame.
Happy Father's Day. Are you guys all fathers? Don't you say you're father. Okay. But we're going to start with you, Aaron. Gospel house music. How did that come about? And why house music?
I've always done gospel music, but house music I had a love for back in the 90s, and I never thought that I'd be a part of it, but in the church I actually got a chance to hang out with Junior White, who opened the door and brought me in, introduced me to Tony Humphreys, and everything's been a beautiful ride since then.
So would you do secular? I always ask that question.
No.
No?
No.
Why?
I'm not
nosy.
I'm
Why?
not into a lot of the topics that are out there with that. A lot of the things are a little bit too negative.
I like that. Okay.
They don't give enough love. It's not enough inspiration, not enough positivity. You know, it doesn't have to necessarily be gospel to be positive, but I don't think that they're putting enough positivity into it. That's just my personal
I love it.
feeling.
Who are your influences?
My influences are Karen Clark Sheard, Smokey Norfolk, John P. Key.
John P. Keith, yes.
Yeah, great guy. Barbara Tucker, CeCe Rogers. So.
Now, you know you had to say CeCe Rogers with CeCe Rogers sitting here right now. Okay, just a tip.
No, seriously, that's my bro. Like, before I was blessed to meet him, I had heard his music and I had studied his music and listened to it, me in the house singing. What's the one that you did with Junior White?
By faith.
Yeah, By Faith. That right there.
Okay. Now, you see how you could do that? I'm like, Trying to remember stuff. Anyway, you know, I digress. Mr. Doc Martin.
Yes.
So I'll make your feet sore. Producing late at night.
Yes.
Now I have to tell y'all, I'm a jazz person. They call it lazy singing. I went for an audition. They said that's lazy singing. Whatever. So house music. When I got on the floor, I was a mother at that time. I couldn't dance that long. So, you know, but anyway, my feet did get so because I didn't get out much either. So I stayed on the floor a little bit just to dance. But house music, talk to me.
Well, first of all, I'm not a great dancer, so that's one of the reasons why I became a DJ.
okay.
Because I can hear the music in my head.
Easy way out, I hear, but it didn't
Exactly.
translate into your body.
House music, I just real quickly, I tell people all the time, I have many influences and I have many genres. I tell people all the time, I was born R&B and I was raised hip hop, and then I grew up to club music.
Yes.
And I just remember going into the clubs early on and hearing the music and feeling it, and of course you have to hear it in wonderful sound systems that really get to you. It gets to your body, and then it gets to you emotionally, and then it gets to you spiritually, and it really opens you up.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why, for a few years, I was doing a long-standing grown folks R&B type thing for a while, and then I decided I'm just going to take a break from that for a minute and get back into my club and house roots.
I want to go there. Stop there for a minute. You said long-standing R&B, so that brings it to you produced the legendary late Frankie Crocker. Let's talk about that.
Yes, I did.
How was that?
Well, I worked when I first came to New York in '97. I was working for a syndication company, and one of the shows we syndicated was the Classic Soul Countdown with Frankie Crocker, which was locally here in New York on WRKS Kiss FM. And
I wonder where I've heard that name before.
and it was through that producing. Well, actually, at that particular time, I was just making sure that the show got in, and then afterwards, I was able to actually produce and write for the show, and work closely with Frankie in putting that show together. And after that, I actually had a chance to work with another legendary person, Vaughn Harper.
Yes, yes. I
The late
remember
great
that
Vaughn
also.
Harper, yes. And that was another great experience that I'll always remember. You know, just working both of them and picking their brains on the programming of music and that type of thing, and what an audience really likes to hear and understand.
What do you think is the difference between producing people back then, those legends, versus people now? I like those reactions.
I was just,
This is up close and personal. We had to tell the truth.
well,
right?
I think the difference basically then is that when you started out, no matter where you started from, you always wanted to pick up things and you listened more.
Absolutely.
And you experienced more. Now it seems like folks feel as though they want to go from one certain thing and jump immediately into the other thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not warranted, and sometimes it's not even, you know, they just feel entitled to just go right to that.
Yeah.
You know, you're in a radio scenario, you can go from working in production and promotions, folding T-shirts or going out on the road, and then all of a sudden you want to be the next, you know, Angie or Funkmaster Flex.
Right,
you know,
right,
it
right.
goes from that extreme.
Yeah.
So I think working with those two individuals, I learned a lot because I just sat back and listened and absorbed. And I think anybody who's a professional has to always be growing as a professional.
And sit
And that's
back
what
listen
I
and
always say.
absorb.
Even though I have years of experience in this business, I still consider myself at the end of the day a student of the game.
Yes.
So
Yes. That's another reason why I'm glad y'all here, because I'm a student of the game. I'm drinking it all in. I'm going to be bothering y'all when we leave here, because you know now we good friends. I have to say, when I first met CeCe, I guess CeCe knew me and I didn't know him. And I went up to him to introduce myself. And he said, I know who you are, Venus. I said, oops. I need to be a student of the game. I was like, excuse me. But that's good, because you need to make sure that you're doing and giving good impressions. So that when people do meet you, it's like, hey, Venus, I know who you are, not, or nothing. You don't want to do that. All right, Sir Charles.
Hello.
So now you brought DJ mixing from DC, put it on BLS, and made them #1 for that particular genre. So tell me about shows mixing back in the day versus the mixing shows today. I have my opinion, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Well, I started in DC. I started actually WPGC's first mix show ever in the whole DMV market in 1987. I launched a show Jelly Bean Benitez was like my guest, and then it blew up from there. We went from number 22 in the market to number 1 in 2.5 years. And that is kind of how I got on to WBLS, because the consultant from that station took over WBLS in 1992, and he brought me from Pendulum Records back to BLS. So that's and we started like the Thunderstorms.
Yes, I remember
And we
that.
mixed all day. So that's like where that comes from. But I didn't make New York number 1. I made DC number 1.
Yeah, I meant that show. You didn't make BLS, the mixed shows on BLS number 1?
No, I was a mix show director.
Okay.
But we did go to number 1.
Okay.
I put Grandmaster Flash on at 5 o'clock, and then DJ Premier was on Friday nights, and we killed it. And Premier, his shift, it was like the soundtrack of New York. So he got to play new music. Our whole show was built, the whole Thunderstorm series was built around brand new music, as opposed to music today where you have to play the hits and program music. We broke the records in the mix show, and then it got added to the radio station.
I'm glad you
That's the
mentioned you
difference.
have to play the hits, because that's one of my issues, and that's why I started the R&BBistro, because there are more hits than just one on the CD. So I want to hear all the other hits. I don't want to hear the hits you say I should listen to.
Well, hits have to come from someplace.
Yeah, but if you're not
we have
listening to it, how's it gonna come?
Exactly, we have to develop it. That's why we
Exactly.
developed it in the mix shows, and then it ended up in programming.
I love it.
And I still do that to this day. Like my show, because I'm on at 1 o'clock in the morning, so I have a little more freedom, and I try to find music that sounds like music that would fit the format of the station, like future hits.
Okay.
Like when Marley Marl back in the day used to do future flavors with hip hop. I try to do that with house and R&B, and just play something that would appeal to the grown folks. 'Cause my show is grown folks music.
Now I remember DJ Flash back in the neighborhood where he was from. My mother lived there, and he actually dated one of my cousins. They didn't get married, thank you. But anyway,
Okay.
you know. So, but I was with the church group. I'm sorry, y'all. So I'm with the church group, so I didn't hang out with them, you know. And so when we talk about house, it's kind of hard for me because I'm not used to dancing secular, making secular movements to church music, you know, in the club. But now I listen to it for inspiration while I'm getting dressed or while I'm cleaning, whatever. And I was listening to When We All Pull Together.
Yes.
And I was listening to Someday. And I was listening to Hallelujah. So in the house, you know, I can do that. But I walked into a party one day. It was like a cookout. And they had a gospel song on to the house beat. And I remember doing this. And I said, ooh, you know, I just stopped. I said, ooh, that's church music. I can't do that. So I didn't get there yet. Maybe when I grow up, then I'll get
Well, you
there.
remember in the early 80s, the Clark Sisters did Sunshine. I mean, Birth of Sunshine. That record was playing in the Palais. That was playing in some of the most
know.
underground clubs on the planet.
But
Plus-
I can't.
And when
My
David
grandmother
danced,
would
he
come
danced
down
out
from
his
heaven and beat
clothes,
me
so-
up.
Plus,
Yep.
the vehicle in which you hear the message, you know, it can change. But as long as you receive the message, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And that's something I wanted to ask. Do
You
you
have
really
to go into the
think,
darkness to bring the people
You're
out.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So do you believe that they're not moving their body too much to the beat, that they're listening to the message?
It's more the message.
The message,
Well,
the message, the
I used
message
to-
makes you move your body.
I
We'll
used
get
to
into it,
think
the
that they
feel.
were interconnected,
Uh-huh.
but then I realized that subliminally
You're hearing it.
you
Yeah.
are hearing the message.
I know, because I went to sleep singing When We All Pull Together. Can I go to sleep,
Right.
Jesus? Tomorrow I need to sleep. So
It
now,
depends on the song.
okay. Now, how many people can say that the legendary Godfather of Soul nicknamed them and that they performed with them? I'm not. So, CeCe Rogers, y'all, one of the most successful house musicians. Huh. His talents are endless. Pianist, composer, singer, teacher, producer, record label owner, etc., etc. I do have a question in here. I do have one. So, what'd you want to be when you grew up?
A child of God.
Okay, but you do that well. So what did God give this child of God? What other gifts? What did God tell this child of God to do?
Told me to go out and feed my sheep.
Yes.
It's funny that you're mentioning all the restrictions that you had. My grandfather started a church in Ohio. My father was a pastor of his church. My grandmother in a church many years. She's 95
So you're a PK?
to this day. I grew up as a musician church such
Okay.
as Aaron and my friend Kenny Bobian. We all had that relationship such as with you. And so like Aaron, I did not want to go outside of gospel music. But when I started coming along, I started realizing there's going to be more church folks busting hell wide open than those
Okay.
sinners in the street. I started really feeling the what's the word I want to say? Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy, you
The
got it,
hypocrisy
yes.
of church folks. And like many other Christians, I had that battle. And my grandfather ministered to me right before he died, because I never forget coming with that album to my grandmother with Someday on it. Of course, it had secular music on it. And she dismissed the record. She didn't even.
Really?
I said, Grandma, I'm on Atlantic Records. You know, I'm successful. And she said, it's not gospel music. It's not James Cleveland. You're not doing this. And she kind of shunned it.
Wow.
And when I went out in the driveway, and my granddad, I was really upset. My granddad was fixing on the car. He was a mechanic. And he says, you're doing a ministry that's bigger than what I'll ever do. When you go overseas and you travel to the world, through your actions and your music, you let people know. And that's what it's been for me.
So, CeCe, tell me some of the legends. Now, I know, but tell our viewers some of the legends that you've produced and worked with.
Wow. Okay, so there's, I did some work with Janet Jackson, Luther Vandross by way of David Morales. I was able to work with Aretha Franklin. I started my career working with CeCe Houston and her daughter Whitney Houston. And there's a lot that I just can't mention. And there's a lot more even overseas that has come back from Italy, from Georgia. To a lot of my artists might not know, but Italian producers that I work with.
So let's talk about overseas. I know that it's easier overseas for artists. So how about DJs? Is it easier overseas to get known and do things?
It depends. Like if you have a buzz on your name in the States, then they hear about you, then you can work over there. I was lucky because in 1989, I started a show in Brixton on Choice FM, and I knew the program director. He was from Boston, and he used to listen to my show when he was in college here. So when he moved to London, he brought me over, and then I was able to develop by just studying that market.
Right.
And then you kind of fit in.
Right.
But it's competitive everywhere. And now in these days, everybody's a DJ. So
Yeah, and
it's
everybody's
kinda
a radio
ridiculous.
person. They got
Everybody
radio
is
shows
everything.
up on the internet.
YouTube is
think-
teaching the world.
Yes, but do
I
you
can take
think
my
that
appendix out from YouTube.
Please don't do that. We
just
got to do
saying.
a show together. You can't do
I'm
that.
just saying,
I
it's that-
need all of your body parts together.
I understand I would do it,
There's a hack for
but
that.
it's that crazy. You know, it's on YouTube. You know, but
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I always say Google is your friend. I tell my friend
Exactly.
outside, whatever she said, how'd you say? I said, Google is your friend. You know, so anytime I don't know something, she'll say, ask Google your friend. Like, okay. you
and now
know.
they got Siri. Like,
Oh, yeah. But Siri's on my, Siri is, I don't know her as well as I know Google. So,
and
all right.
Alexa. Go ahead.
What y'all say about that? I mean, about Charles? Okay, that's for our show. Hold on to it. Hold your peace. Okay. So now, CeCe, I know I'm going to come back to you again for a minute. You have USB Records. Before we go into that, does anybody else have a record label?
I have Skip Records.
Skip Records. Okay, so we'll talk about that. All right, so, and we're going to get to the project in a few minutes. So why do you have your own record label?
Very, very, very good question, Venus. Another great person I didn't mention, Marshall Jefferson, who actually started my career and is considered definitely one of the godfathers of house music. Him and I was producing for a lot of people. I didn't mention some other artists, Duran Duran, Tom Jones. And we were both signed to different labels. I was with Atlantic, so they had my name, CeCe Rogers, exclusively. And he was under contract, and his name was like exclusive. Sometimes, you know, you can't really go out and do other projects.
Right.
So we started this group called Mood Life, which my son has taken over that name, and we started producing a lot of artists. The thing is that we were working with a lot of major labels and independent labels, and we started seeing problems and discrepancies with our statements and our checks and everything back in the day.
Don't mess with my money.
Yeah, so, you know, our accounts was like, no, this song hit number 10 or this song hit number 5, or, you know, come on, you know, but we're only getting this, you know,
This amount of
this
royalties.
distribution check. So Marshall and I said, let's start our own label. When we started our own label, at that time, which is about 2007, 2008, we had the old mentality, you know, Facebook hadn't really taken off and YouTube was just new. And so we felt that we needed a major label to be distributed. So we had the label, but we were still always looking for distribution from whether it's Warner or Universal, Republic, any of those. But at one time when Atlantic started, it was an independent label. Everybody becomes major.
Right.
But at
So
that
you're
time,
independent, then you're major.
then you go major. Yeah,
Right.
everybody does.
I want you guys to come back and talk about that.
Okay.
On another time, because we don't have that much time to talk about that. But so you're not a subsidiary of any other major label. You're your own label.
Well, now I'm on my own label, but now with when you said some things about the difference between what happened over 10, 15 years ago and what happens now, everything comes down to social media.
Right.
Even the libraries are not important. When you and I went to college, went to school,
Yeah.
we had to go get our information from going to the
And look at
library.
those cards and
we
you
didn't have
could
no
never figure
computers.
out how they work.
Right. We
Yeah.
had my son don't
Yeah.
know. My
He
son don't
don't
know
know
nothing about a
anything
fee.
about
He don't know nothing
that.
about a fee like that. So
Yeah.
we had to learn. So information is like a nanosecond, okay, and that works in the whole spectrum of the industry. I am distributed now pretty much by a major company, but they call themselves a distribution service. You have different places like CD
That's like
Baby,
flipping the
Orchard,
script kinda, I like
right?
that.
But
Yeah.
what happens is they started off as a distribution company,
Right.
and then the major companies come in and buy them. Yes, that's another story.
Yes, we have to get back to that.
But I'm actually, yes, I am on label, but I am distributed by a major.
Okay. So when we all pull together, I think we got a copy of that CD cover. I need to see a copy of that CD cover. What made you decide to do this?
This guy right here. What happened was that I met Charles. Well, I knew Charles over 20 years ago, kind of like how I knew you.
Yeah.
I knew you by your popularity and your reputation. So I knew Charles way back. And at the Frankie Knuckles memorial, he reached out to me. Me and my wife was there, paying our respects. And he reconnected with me. He said, "Sam, man, we got to hook up." And I remember, like, about a year later, he invited me, tried to get me to a white affair, which you and your wife was doing. And I was like, I couldn't go. I was out of town. So I said, okay, I'm going to put Charles on this list because I'm going to come out with an album. But he had mentioned to me then, he said, "CeCe, man, you should really do Remake Someday." Someday has been remade so many times by so many different artists.
Sounds almost the same. I'm listening to stuff last night.
wasn't-
That sounds like that.
Right.
It must be the house stuff. No.
So I really wasn't in the mood to do it, but I listened to my son, who is a millennial, and he's he amazed me how they create music, how they.
Yes.
So I was like, I was only going to put 9 songs on my album. Dad said that can't happen, Kate. Dad, you can't do that.
Really? I
You
want
gotta
to
put at
6.
least-
You can't do that?
Yeah, I said, okay, well, I'm gonna put 10. He says, no. He said, you gotta put 15 songs on this album. I'm
Wow.
like, 15 songs?
wow,
He said, you gotta put 15. It's for it to even be reputable in this day and time. You gotta put out 15 songs. So I got up to 14. I'm drained.
I know.
And so I remember what he said. So I took, when we all put together, I took the sample of my sample, redid it, and then I put when we all put together on it.
Right.
And I wasn't thinking. And I sent Charles the whole album. I said, listen to it, because I knew you got a mixed show. I said, listen to it, see what you like.
So how'd you get everybody else?
He
I mean,
called
how
me.
do you
I'm getting
put
ready to get to him.
I know, but I don't want to run out of time. I
Okay.
wanna get it all in.
Okay. So he took the song, said, I love to see, you got to do something. He says, man, when we all put together, it's a strong title. You need to pull some of the local talent up or whatever. So he mentioned
Y'all didn't have my number, huh?
Aaron.
Okay.
Right? He mentioned Aaron, and I said, cool. And then he mentioned Jeff. And I'm like, I know Jeff for over 25 years.
Yeah.
Jeff's not gonna do no house music record. He says, call him. And then because he already knew that Jeff was doing house. I called Jeff. Jeff was like, boom. And Kenny started his career with me. So that was like, when I called Kenny was like, okay, yeah, right, I'm down, especially if you know Kenny for the gospel house that he is. He's all about positivity, right? So that's how I came. So he kind of A&R'd it.
A&R'd it.
I wanted 4 positive voices on there because like the groups like the Temptations, the OJs, he's got that Barry White thing happening.
He got that everything happening.
Yeah.
I was listening to the keys. I'm like,
No, he's amazing.
I mean, I like
And see the song.
all the instruments.
30 years ago when he did the song was actually when I started my career in radio, and he started his career. And 30 years later, we're still in the same place we were 30 years ago. So this song is like when Martin Luther King said, I had a dream.
Yeah.
This is the dream that didn't happen yet. So
Yeah.
now, when we all pull together, it's going to make it happen.
Yes, and I why you didn't bring me my own copy? Where's my CD?
You got it.
So he got me. Oh my God. So let me see. I need you to tell me how can, and quickly because we're really running out of time, I have to have y'all back. How can an artist go to one of your labels? That's the first part. How can they come to one of your labels and get signed? And where do you go to find somebody to sign to your label?
Well, as a DJ, I'm always looking for new talent. As a matter of fact, when I left Columbia in 2003, they merged Epic with Columbia, and I had been promoting the artists and developing artists for years, from Tommy Boy Pendulum, MCA, TVT, whatever. I wanted to see if I could do it on my own, so I started a production company, and I randomly found the artist on MySpace, when MySpace was big, so I signed her. She's from Malaysia.
Okay.
So I'm always looking for talent.
And CeCe?
YouTube.
I ain't on YouTube.
That's how I find
Get
you.
on
I'm
YouTube.
not.
Well, and they normally get in
And
touch
word
with
of
me.
mouth. Word of
Word,
mouth.
So,
Facebook.
Now you have a new artist. Did you find her on YouTube? The one you were going to bring initially?
Oh no, I found her through Charles.
I found her.
Tony
Mullins?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, we're winding down, so I got to ask you. I need 3 tips. 3 tips that a person who wants to start a label could do, or a person who wants to be a DJ could do, and I want some real concrete tips that they can actually go out tomorrow because they saw the show and start doing that.
Okay.
Okay? So give me 3 tips. I mean, you can give me the 3 or you one, just.
Okay, I'll give you. Want me to give you the tip on the singing or being a
I want you to give me
musician?
the tips on the record label.
Okay, so to be a record producer or own a record label, you need business skills. So any type of education, I don't care if it's YouTube or the internet, some college courses, the business industry, because it's always changing.
Education. You can't just come out and think you can do it.
You don't have to have a law degree,
Right.
but anything in music business, so you can understand contracts. Because if you're not reading and understanding contracts, you're gonna spend upwards of $300 to $500 for a lawyer to look at your contracts and everything like that.
Number 2.
And you just have to have a, if you started up as a little kid and you had a lemonade stand and you learned how to take your money and you knew how to save, then you might have a knack for this music business. Okay.
Number 3.
Number three. Oh, I said a knack, right? Now
I think you said a knack.
you got these pretty eyes and it's throwing me off. So
Look at that.
the
You're
knack,
wife outside. Don't be looking at my eyes.
Yeah, but I got eyes. I got eyes.
Thank you. I'm supposed to say thank you.
I always tell my wife, she looked too. I look, I said, it's nice.
I used to tell my husband, look at her, she's gorgeous.
Can I save you?
Yes, save him. Give him number 3.
I'm gonna give you number 3 right here.
Then you're not,
And
don't be
and
mesmerized by my eyes.
It's
so.
changed. It's changed a little bit. But I'm under the impression that anything you want to do in life, you can do it if you think like it and you really invest your time into it. Okay, so if you want to be a DJ, you have to think like a DJ. You have to read everything about DJing. You have to do everything. You have to hang out in clubs. You have to hang out with people who are influential. Now, the thing that's changed over the years is when you do all these things, no matter what it is, be a musician or whatever, you also have to create a story. Okay,
Yes.
you have to create a story. Sometimes the hype is bigger than the substance.
Okay.
That's what, unfortunately, is the change nowadays. It used to be that you would have to have the skills and then have the story. But sometimes you can get away with just having the story and then back your way into the
So
skills.
if you have the story, can you get somebody to help you fine-tune those skills?
That's number 1 rule in business. That if you don't know somebody, get somebody who does.
knows somebody. How important are teams?
Teams are very important.
Very
Very
important.
important. How important is it to pick good teams?
You have to have
That's
a
even
team.
more important.
Even more important.
You have to have a team.
And it's
know you
even
can.
harder the older you get because
sure
the
is.
energy's not there.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Boy, are you in my head?
I'm telling you, like this young man right here could probably do
artists.
everything.
I know I need to partner up with somebody young. That's
Yeah,
what my friend says.
That's
She says I
exactly.
stay with young people because they make me feel young.
Yeah.
But I think you have to discover your gift because not everybody can do it. And that's the
That's
problem
right.
with the world today.
Some
Everybody
people
thinks
think
that they
have
can
the
be
gifts and they
anything.
don't. Exactly.
You have to
Exactly.
be what you're meant to be.
You guys are so awesome.
And that's the thing. You have to be patient, and then you have to do your research, like they said.
Yeah.
But you just can't wake up and say, "I want to be,"
one person has ever gotten on by themselves. Somebody's always helped somebody somewhere down the
Oh,
line.
I wish I had time for you to say that again.
You know?
CeCe,
Teamwork makes the dream work.
thank you. Charles, thank you.
Thank you.
Doc, thank you.
Blessed, thank
Aaron,
you.
thank you. I'm just so honored. Make sure you come back again. We're going to post how you can find them. Remember, it's never too late to live your dreams. And when you do, I'll be there encouraging you. Thank you so much. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'll see you next time right here on the R&B Bistro, up close and personal.